Hello everyone, I'm Krishna Kumpali, developer advocate at Eden AI. In today's tutorial, we'll explore how to utilize our Resume Parser API to extract structured data such as name, education, job experience, skills from resumes. We'll also cover how to make an API call, implementing fallback providers, and also usage of file URL and binary file uploads. Finally, we'll also go through some additional params such as document type, convert to PDF, file password, etc. By the end of the session, you'll be equipped with skills to integrate this API into your applications seamlessly. So let's get started. So the step one is to navigate to the Resume Parser feature, which you can find it from AI APIs. You just need to type Resume Parser and that leads to this page. Once you get into this page, you can see a code snippet and on your right, the pricing and billing units. So let's focus on the code snippet part right now. Uh, Okay, so under the API quick start, there's a code snippet which is written in Python, also JavaScript, and also in curl. So if your environment is Node.js or any other JavaScript based, this is the one you may have to consider. But let's say if your environment is Django, Flask, or Fast API or Python based, this code snippet works for you. So it contains headers, JSON payload, and the URL, which is nothing but the API endpoint, which we have to hit. So the bearer token is required in order to authenticate your requests. Okay, so there are two methods to submit a resume. One is file URL method, the other is local file method. So let's say if your resume is in some Google Drive or S3 bucket or somewhere hosted online, the file URL code snippet works perfectly for you. You can see we have a key here under the JSON payload dictionary that asks that helps us to understand where the image is. I mean, through the URL, right? So we pass this JSON payload into the post of requests, and boom, that's it. But let's say if your resume is in some sort of local storage or local drive, you should head out to the local file code snippet here, and we are explicitly passing the path of the resume here. And instead of passing directly under the JSON payload or the data here, we are passing it as a separate attribute here in under files. So I hope that's the basic difference. I hope you I hope that's clear. Okay. So so this is the resume parser's documentation where we can find all the parameters, body params. I think this is very pretty much important to understand. So let's go through one by one to see what the exact uh, usage, how you're going to use these params in the API, right? So let's start with settings. So the main purpose is to allow you to specify which models to use for some providers. The format of the settings is basically a dictionary where each key is a provider and the value is a specific model, right? Let's say if the provider supports multiple models, you can specify one. So for example, OpenAI is a provider and OpenAI has multiple models like GPT 3.5 Turbo, GPT 4o, etc., etc. So you can specify one model under the settings. And fallback providers, I'll come to that part in a bit. Let's go to response as a dict. So the main purpose of response as a dict param is to define whether the response should be returned as an object with provider names, as keys, or as a list of objects. So the default value is true, but you can set it to false if you prefer a list-based structure for easier iteration, right? And let's go to attributes as a list. It's pretty much same. It determines whether the extracted item should be returned as a list of dictionaries or as an object with attributes as a list, something like that. But the default is false, right? So you can enable it or you can change it to true when you need the attributes to be grouped together instead of the key value pairs. Um, and then comes the show base64. I think it's pretty much straightforward. The default value is true, so it returns the resume file in a base64 format. It is very useful for debugging or storing past resumes data directly. But still, you can disable it by changing the value to false if you don't require it. And then show original response. It includes the unprocessed response from the provider in the API output. So, I mean, the default value is false, but if you want to see the raw output from the provider, you can enable it. You can change it to true. So, when it comes to file password, since the file and file URL we've already uh, discussed about, let's go to the file password. The file password is pretty much simple. If your file, if you have a PDF file or any other file which has a password, so you can provide a password there. I mean, it's the default value is null; it doesn't have any value. But if you have a password, you can just send the password there. Okay, and then convert to PDF. So the default value is false, but the main purpose is to convert your Word and image files into PDF before the parsing. So it is required for the providers that only supports PDF inputs, but I think most of the providers do. So yeah, and let's go to the fallback providers. Uh, okay. So fallback providers parameter basically ensures the reliability, right? By switching to the alternate providers if the primary one fails. It's like a plan B, right? So how does it work? So you must specify one provider in the providers parameter. The max you can add is like 5 fallback providers. So the API will try them in order you define until one succeeds. If all fail, an error will become. That's it. So the primary one, if it fails, then it goes to the fallback providers, max of 5. It starts with the first one you mentioned, and goes down. And let's say if all the 5 fails, that's it. You'll get an error. So that's the idea of fallback providers. So I hope you understood the params we'll be using in this API. Okay, so this is a small project we have made to just let you guys understand how we are going to use that API code snippet into our own projects. So this is based on Fast API. It's a pretty minimal project that takes the resume and then provides the response. That's it. So I've created an endpoint called parse resume, and inside the method, so I've used the headers, authorization, and bearer token, which you might have, uh, you know, uh, just recall it. We've used it from the code snippet from the Eden AI page, and then the form data, which is nothing but the JSON payload, right? So I gave the providers as affinda, and then I provided response is rigged to true, show original response is false, attribute as list is false, convert to PDF is false, right? Uh, Most of them are default, so you may not have to specify it, but if you do, it's fine. Uh, so and then I think yeah, that's it. I ran the server and it's running on this local host. Then let me try hitting it from the Postman, and then I chose my resume, and then I let me try hitting it. It's sending the request. Uh, okay, well, that's quick. So what happened is basically the server that I created hits the endpoint from of the Eden AI API, if you remember, which the Eden AI API therefore hits the provider's endpoint, and that's how we are getting the response. So it's pretty much everything. I'm not going to read everything, but yes, everything is like proper. So that's how you're going to use the Eden AI's Resume Parser APIs into your own project or product. Okay, let's see how we're going to implement this in Eden AI workflow. So navigate to this workflows here, and then let's create from scratch. Okay, let's create from scratch. You can type resume parser test. Okay, and then leave the description for now, and then let's create a project. And then it goes to the builder page here, where it has an input and AI feature and output. Pretty simple skeleton. The default is text, but for us we need file input, right? So let's modify this by clicking this, and then file URL for now, and then input in. Let's just keep file URL. That's it, and then just edit this field. Okay. Uh, we also have one more field where you need to upload the local files if you have any, right? So we can add uh, input field here, and then file. We just call it binary file upload, right? Then just add the field. That's it, simple. And then it goes to the first AI feature, and then yeah, let's add it. The name is Resume Parser. That's the feature. Let's add it to the workflow. Simple. Okay, so we need to select a provider. There are a lot of providers. GPT-4o. Let's try with Affinda again. And then the file or file URL. Yeah, let's take this from the previous node, right? Select this. Get value from input. True. Select the field value file URL. That's true. Add value from input. Save. We have one more here, so let's do it again. But this time, let's select binary file upload, and then add value, and then save it. That's it. Done. So the complete workflow is done. So let's just run the workflow and see. Now it goes to the API and live testing page. And now we can choose a file URL or a binary file upload. Let me choose my file here. Oh, sorry, it's resume. My bad. Okay, let me choose this. Let me test the workflow. Okay. It may take a couple of seconds, probably a minute. Oh, not a minute. Okay, so the personal info. Okay, oops. Well, yeah. So everything is on point, right? So you have a status as success, provided as a Finda. So a quick recap of what we have seen in this video. So we have demonstrated how to make an API call to parse resumes. We also discussed the usage of fallback providers for enhanced reliability. We compared the file URL methods with the binary file uploads. We also explored additional parameters to customize this parsing process. And finally, we have seen how to implement this resume parsing method with the help of Eden AI's workflows, right? So if you found this tutorial helpful, thank you so much, and stay updated.